power. You go.
All right. So if we're talking about power, so power is like influence over someone else. Um, there's power in trust. Like if you trust someone else, then you're also giving them power so that they can be more themselves. But it depends on what kind of power you're talking about. Like if I say I am acquiring power, then that means I'm acquiring influence. Power and influence go hand in hand. Power is all about will, like your ability to influence the world around you. Your will, your diaphragm, your breath, your voice, you're speaking that into existence. All of that has to do with power. And power is a very dualistic thing also. Like when you sink into unity, then there really is no power anymore because it's all the same thing. And you know it's all the same thing. But when you do come down into the physical realm and engage, then it's a very different thing. But it all boils down to influence. How much influence do you have over those around you? And power can be given away. Power can be received. Power can be forced upon. Power can be rebelled against. Power can, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? So, enforcing power, what is the equal opposite reaction of that? Well, there would be people just taking it, just like taking the beating or whatever it is. So it's agency, self-agency also. That has a lot to do with power. So what is your preference for what you accept in the world around you? Well, now we come into boundaries, right? So boundaries are all power games also. And those are in these little tiny ways. Being told what to do or being told how to do something. Right? Like control is a facet of power. So how much control do you have over someone else? How much control do you have over yourself? That's the big question with power. Because if you really had control of yourself, then would you, when you know that you've got a bunch of very important things to do, instead, watch the TV or go out and get high or get drunk or whatever ilk you prefer. So it's really just goes back to self and sitting with yourself in power. And it's not a gaining or acquiring that needs to happen. It's an accepting and a surrendering into the power that you already hold, into the power that you have, that you've never been without. Because you never truly gave away your power, but you did convince yourself that you truly did give away your power. And that's what you really have to look at. Because you signed up for the whole experience, the whole ride. You wrote the book that is your life already. So then, in the end of the day, even when things bad happen to you, you made that happen. In order to feel that experience. You wanted to learn something from it. So every moment, good or bad, every person, good or bad, everyone who takes something of yours, everyone who gives you something, everyone who loves you, everyone who hates you. They're all really, really giving you power and respect with their time and attention. And those are like the most important things: time and attention, time and awareness. Where does the you that exists behind your eyes, is he always behind your eyes, or is he, up here doing something else, floating around, getting lost in the endless nothingness of space? Giving away your power to interdimensional beings? Or what does it take to retrieve and then summon that power into the dualistic world? Well, it takes agency. It takes being able to do what you know you need to do when it comes time to do it. Okay, so how do we build that? Let's look at trust, actually. Because do you trust your own word? Do you trust that when you say you're going to do something, you do it? That's power over yourself, right? So then, if everything's a mirror, that means everyone outside of yourself, if you struggle with this, then everyone else that you're around is struggling with this. A lot of people are. Power, respect, control. I looked at it from like every angle. It's a little silly. I mean, what is it like to become? So, lack wound. Let's go into the lack wound, right? So, power is from the diaphragm. If someone has a lack wound, they'll approach it in their life, generally speaking, in one of two ways. If they have a really bad lack wound, like they were really beat down and told that they were worthless, then you've got one of two options. They either wildly succeed and start a bunch of companies and probably spend as much money as they make, because if their account balance is above zero, they get nervous, right? Like, it's like then the pressure's off, right? You have to have that pressure to make the money, so you spend the money to have the pressure. Right? And that's another thing the diaphragm's all about. All this lack wound, it's all about pressure. Getting squeezed into doing something, right? That's power. Someone's inflicting power upon you. And who does that first? Your parents. They put you in a little crib that you can't get out of. And then they are in charge of your sleeping and eating schedules. They're in charge of when your ass gets wiped, all of this stuff. And it's really beautiful taking care of something. And also, it's a huge power game, even in that. Everything comes down to a power game, if you want to look at it that way. But the way that you get the most power over anything is in exactly the same way Watts talks about this. He goes about cells. He says, the cell next to your skin cell is trusting your skin cell to do your job. And as long as he can trust that, then he can do his job. And everyone does what they're made to do. And when everyone does what they're made to do, then this really beautiful, synchronicity comes in, and this symposium, this magical machinery, all the gears are turning all at the same exact time, and that's exactly when you want them to happen. Everything gets lined up, and it's beautiful and stuff. And the cost of that is power. Control, a little bit, but control isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? But best way to get power is by releasing control, releasing pride, releasing respect, right? Like your need for these things to let it go. And then just be it. And just know that you're worth it. That's the hardest part. All right, how long?